Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. It's another wonderful day in Las Vegas. By wonderful I mean 110 and god awful hot. So I'm sweating like crazy, but I've got stuff to do and we're gonna do it. So been making progress in the car. It's been slow. I remember someone telling me that how does it go again? Was it 10? The last 10% of your build takes 90% of the time. That is definitely what's happening right now. I'm trying to get the car where it is drivable, or at least the engine can run for more than a couple seconds. I did try to start it, not on camera, since the last video I posted with the car starting. I had an oil line burst and started spraying oil everywhere. It's the this line over here. It's supposed to be a push fitting, and for whatever reason it just did not stay. So this AN line or fitting is going to disappear, and I'll go with the more traditional, like the I don't even know what it's called, the kind that you two-piece, you thread them together and it makes it tight, secure, rather than these the push lock ones. So hopefully that will solve my issue. It's weird because I have the push style on this side of the oil line and it's fine. So I'm not sure what happened with this side, but it made a huge mess. Anyways, I've got my my electric fan relay. It's 180 amps, so it's definitely going to have no problem holding the power or the current draw of this big old fan right here. That's a Mark 8 fan. Came with the car, draws a lot of current, but does a great job. I've heard people claim as high as 4,000 CFM from that fan. So hopefully it'll work. It's actually very, very thick. So as a result, I've actually had to cut up the cold side piping that I had paid someone to do for me. This pipe, I'm going to over exaggerate with this hand gesture here, but basically this pipe came out like this and then went back, and there just wasn't enough clearance because that fan's almost 4 inches thick. Pretty huge, but if it gets the job done, that's all I care about. So luckily for me, when I started cutting stuff up, I found that when they'd made these pipes for me, this pipe was jammed all the way in here. So as a result, I was actually able to cut a section out here, rotate this pipe up, and then slide it out of this coupler, which is incredibly long, so it worked out great. And then I was able to just use one of these straight couplers to hook to get the hook up. And actually, if you look from above, it looks like it's pretty much perfect, which is really lucky for me because I had cut a chunk out of it and then rotated it, so you'd think that things wouldn't line up, but they line up perfectly. And now as a result, I will be able to get the radiator mount. So what I'm actually going to do is, here's a radiator. This piece of angle iron, which I have a couple holes drilled into it, is going to mount on top. If you remember from my older videos, there was already a piece that went from here to there, and I cut that out, which allows me to move the radiator forward about a ½ inch. Doesn't sound like much, but I only needed about 1.5 inches, so every little bit counts. The original mounts for this just weren't going to work. That's actually them down there, those two little tabs. They had to go. They had made a shroud. Previous owner had made a shroud for this fan, so it covered the entire radiator, but because the shroud was so poorly made, there was giant gaps, so it defeated the purpose of trying to cover the whole radiator. So I'm going to mount it to the radiator without that gigantic shroud, which is actually in pieces over here. It looks nice, it just didn't work. So it took up way too much room. It added good 3 inches to the thickness of a 4-inch fan already, so I don't even know how that would work ever, except for a custom application. And even in this custom application, it wasn't going to work. There just wasn't enough room. So I'm going to go ahead and start putting this in. I don't like these mounts. Previous owner had mounted the radiator in the front of the core support. I'm not sure if at some point it was mounted in the back as well. I don't know what the second set of mounts are. I really don't know. But my plan is to... Ooh, the wind's blowing. I don't need this thing falling over. Hold on, there you go. and that'll stay. So my plan is to just let it sit here in the lower mounts while I mock up the top, and then once that's mocked up, welded, tacked in place, I will make some mounts for the bottom, because these things are flimsy as hell. I can bend them just by pushing on it with one finger. So obviously that's not going to be very good for longevity. So let's throw the radiator in and drag out the welder, and then we'll make some progress. All right, so real quick, this is the bar I had made. You know, just a nice cheap piece of angle iron. Came from Home Depot, 4 feet long, cost about $6. There's a couple holes drilled right here. I basically made marks to line it up. The lower hose is not pushed on, but it'll fit. That's not an issue. Off camera real quick, for the first time I did try setting the radiator down in those front little cradles. I don't know why those were made, but there's absolutely no way that was going to work. So I'm confident that it's sitting in the correct location. I also like the fact that it's slightly angled forward at the top. Try to get as much air from the bottom, because I've said before, and I'll say it again, I'm not cutting holes in this bumper, so all of the air has got to come from below. I might make a scoop or some kind of, like, you know, something angled down there to help direct air up and in. We'll see how how things go once the car's up and running. Because the car has no air conditioning, it's not my daily driver, it's just a toy. I have no intentions to drive the car when it's above 90 degrees outside. 85 is about the limit. So hopefully that'll be more than enough to keep it cool. But there is enough room for that gigantic fan. There's a little bit of room down here for this cap to open, but to be honest, this is never going to get opened. And then this, I'll more than likely be using this just for the overflow. This will always be shut. And for the hose that comes out of here, that goes out, actually I did have one for test fitting. It makes it bend up, goes back. If you're familiar with Fox Buddies, you know how this thing runs. But anyways, it's going to connect up to here. Somewhere in the middle, I will actually have the filler, because the car is sitting level right now. And if you look, try to see if we can see, the radiator is actually lower than the thermostat housing. So that's going to create air pockets if I'm always relying on that as a mode to fill the radiator. So I have an inline radiator cap, whatever you want to call it, that's going to sit right here. I'll be able to fill it from here. This will never open, so it works out that I can't really open this. Wow, that was not expected. But with that piece of angle iron in there, this won't be able to open, which is fine. I'm not going to need it to, so it's actually going to work out perfect. And then the overflow tank will probably sit somewhere down there, and then a line will come off of here. And then there's also, if I remember correctly, the one I ordered, there's the pressure release fitting, whatever you want to call it, on the one that's going to go up here as well. That one I'll just cap off. I'll plug it so it can never open. It can't vent pressure from up there. It'll only be able to vent from here. And then as far as filling is concerned, filling will always take place up here, and this will always stay shut. So it'll work just the way the factory intended. Just they'll have 2 caps, and one of them will basically, just for show. So let me go ahead and drag, well actually I got to drill a couple holes, and I'll drag the welder out, and then I can start tack welding stuff in place. Alright, it's a new day. The weather is a lot nicer than it was yesterday. I had to take a break, so I had to stop working yesterday. It's time for dinner. Anyways, it's about 20 degrees cooler. The clouds are coming and going. There's a slight breeze. It's a whole lot better than it was yesterday. So I got this piece of angle iron drilled, bolted onto the radiator. This is going to be the upper support. I did put a small notch right here so that I could open the radiator cap if I absolutely had to. But now I'm going to go ahead and stick this between the uprights here and tack it into place. just a reminder, the mounts down there on the bottom, which are horrible at best, they're just there to basically support the weight of the radiator while I'm getting the top tacked into place. Once that is secure, then I can make something for the bottom and then rip out that mess that's down here. Wow, perfectly level.
Yeah, it didn't fit on the list.
Okay. Alright, just gotta get the mask and burn it in. Alright, now that the upper mount is welded in, it's time to start working on the lower mount. That's one. I'm just eyeballing where I'm putting these. There's no rhyme or reason to it. New battery time. Here we go. Yeah, blew it out a little bit, but friction will do the job. Alright, that'll hold that. Then I just need to run or clean off the paint right here, and then I'll be able to weld this on. Ooh. Okay. So obviously I'm not going to weld all the way across. There's not going to be that much weight. It'd be way overkill to do that. So I'm just doing a couple little welds a few inches apart. And the last one. All right, and the radiator is officially mounted. So now I can cut these ugly ass tabs off. Here, I'll show you what I was talking about. This is what was holding it, and with no effort whatsoever, I mean, you can see I can just pull it right down. Well, that one I can't get my fingers on, but you get the idea. They're very poor. Probably, yeah, that thing's gonna snap if I really manhandle it. So I'll just cut it off. This one is actually welded to the one in front, so one clean cut and get rid of the whole thing. Alright guys, I pulled out the radiator. I cleaned up some of the holes that weren't drilled that great, and then I also had to mock up the mounts for the radiator fan, so the radiator had to come out for that anyways. So after doing that, I've got the radiator back in. I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like. 2 bolts on the top, 2 bolts on the bottom. I did end up putting a little bit more weld down there after I stopped recording, just to ensure it can hold the weight of an elephant instead of just the weight of a radiator. I did a test fit on the lower hose, which I have. Unfortunately, I don't have the upper hose, so we can't do any fitting on that, although I know it's going to clear. I have a hose I'm not going to use, but I have put it in. It does work. I'm not worried about that. But anyways, brand new hose, it's in there. I have a hose clamp on the top that's holding that. I bought some hose clamps thinking it was the right size. I was off by 1/4 of an inch. So I'm gonna have to go pick up another hose clamp. Other than that, this is in here rock solid. I mean, I could push the car holding onto the radiator. These are the 2 mounts I made. They're basically just bolted into the outer edge, which you can kind of see from this angle. But what's gonna happen is radiator's gonna come in here. Oh, it's too tight. I gotta put it from below. Get to stand up for a second. There we go. Well, anyways, I can't do this one-handed, so rather than put the camera down, I'm just not going to show you. But basically, it's going to sit in there, again, if it still works. But it's basically going to sit on those mounting tabs. That'll hold the weight, and then I'll have a couple attachment points up here. I drilled a hole specifically right here for that, and then I'll use this big elongated hole for the other side. And then I'll be able to attach it, no problems. So that'll be good. I'll have the radiator taken care of, the cooling system. This hose is on order, as well as the fill cap, or whatever you want to call it. It's going to sit right here. That's on order. Both those things are coming next week. So that's pretty much it. Radiator's in, nice and solid, looks good, no complaints. Those ugly old mounts are on the floor, ready to go in the trash. And next thing I got to do is fix this oil line that let go. I have the fitting somewhere over there, but I'll take care of that next. Probably won't film that because that takes 2 seconds. And then I got to run a couple of wires, one for the headlights. I'm not going to have any turn signals or separate switch for fog lights, so it's just going to be one wire running all the headlights, and then one wire to run the fan, which is going to be you know, here's the relay for it right here. So just about done with the front end of the car. And then I can work on the transmission. I'm almost done wiring the transmission. I'm waiting on the transmission pan after numerous attempts for them to try to fix my oil pan. It's just still leaking, so I gave up on them. And then after that, I just got to do some welding under the back of the car, and then after that, maybe we can go for a test drive. So hopefully that comes up soon. Just depends on how I can deal with this temperature. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully it gave you guys some ideas for your next project. So I'll see you in the next one.